first, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello everyone, this is Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thank you for joining us. Of course, we are live streaming here every weekday, starting around 1 p.m., going throughout the afternoon, covering a wide range of topics. But right now, we're talking about something, in case you didn't know, took place last week, and that was the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation's World Elk Calling Championships. And the winner of the professional division is from right here in Oregon. We're going to be joined by him in just a minute. Tony Gilbertson is here with us. But before we do that, I wanted to give everybody just a base to understand how this works, what an elk calling championship looks like, and if you don't know, what an elk sounds like, because this is apparently as close as you can get when a human is doing it based on the winning the championship. So I've got this right here. We'll let this play and give everybody an idea. There you go. And joining us right now is Tony himself. Tony, thank you for being here with us today. Congratulations on being the 2024 champ of this. And, you know, there's a lot of questions that I have about what we just watched right there. But I think the first one I have is, how did you get into elk calling competitions? How did this start?
So I started competing back in about 2005. I picked up diaphragm elk calls, and I was an archery hunter, and for years I didn't use any calls, and using elk calls increases your odds of encounters. So I picked up a call, I started calling, I started mimicking elk, and I became very proficient at it, and I thought, well, I'll just go try to compete and see what happens. And in 2005 was the first year. I think it was in Portland at the convention center, and then there for a few years after that it was in Reno. And best I could do back then in the men's division was fourth place. So there was a long dry spell. I didn't compete for a long time, and then 2021 I thought I'd try my hand at it again, and I actually won the men's division. And then I was approached by Phelps Game Calls and asked to be on their pro team, which meant I had to move up into the pro division and compete at that level, and which is a lot harder. There's the caliber of callers in that division is significantly more talented than the guys in the men's division. First year I did that, I took second. Last year I unfortunately didn't place, but this year was a different story.
This year you came through and were champ. So with the professional division, so you're sponsored for that, I would imagine, or part of an organization for that. How many professional elk callers are there in total?
Well, in this contest in Big Sky, there were about 25 or 26 of us total. And it's a bracketed contest. You go head to head on the stage, and the judges, there's 7 judges, they're sequestered behind a curtain so they can't see who you are. All they can do is hear, and then they score you based on how you sound in terms of how close you can emulate or mimic the sounds of elk.
And so, when you're doing this, like what we just watched, what is it? What kind of elk are you mimicking? Like what is the elk saying, for lack of a better word, that I can't figure out how to communicate that?
So it really depends. The first, as that video started, that was the freelance or freestyle part of that contest. So you've got 30 seconds where you make cow and calf sounds, 30 seconds where you make bull sounds, and then 30 seconds where you can do this freestyle sound. So I started out making cow and calf sounds, and it's just general communication that they make or have in their herd. One of those sounds I made was a lost calf sound. So if a calf gets separated from the herd or its mom, they'll make this kind of high-pitched, very quick, repetitive sound to try to find out what mom.
And yes, that would make sense then for maybe drawing something in then. So that's basically what that would be doing.
Yeah, good. The bull sounds. I mean, if for as an archery hunter, I'm trying to call in bull elk.
Mhm.
House sounds will cause that to happen, but a bull sound, if you're in the neighborhood or close proximity to a bull that's got a herd, kind of his little harem, and you introduce another bull, they want to fight. They don't want. They think that or the bull's going to come in and take his herd from him, and they'll fight. Sometimes they fight to the death, but they just want to get that bull. There's bulls trying to come in and steal the cows from him, and so that's what I'm trying to. I'm trying to paint that picture on the stage of that communication between bulls and cows and cows and calves.
That's fascinating. How much practice do you do to keep up with this and be that skilled?
You know, it's pretty much, as my wife would say, nonstop. I practice year round. As she pointed out here recently, the only time she doesn't get to hear me is when I'm the month of September when I'm out in the woods by myself or with my hunting buddy. So, but it's leading up to the contest. I have a diaphragm in my mouth every day. I'll practice for 15, 20 minutes at a time. I'll get a routine down. On my way to work in the mornings, I'll take my calls with me. I've got a 45-minute commute, so I've got those calls in my mouth as I'm going, and I'm just practicing the sounds, the tones, and then the routine that I built.
So you're the guy all the time that has the elk call in his mouth. At the party, you're going to be doing the elk calling.
Yeah, my neighbors love it.
So you mentioned the equipment. So I noticed there too. You had the smaller piece, must be the diaphragm that you're talking about, and then you had a bigger, giant horn. Can you tell me what those two things are?
Sure. So this is the diaphragm elk reed that I used. This happens to be my signature elk call as a pro team member of Phelps Game Calls. This year they came out with a signature elk call for myself and two other the pro team members. So this is a diaphragm. It's got a metal frame on it, and then on the bottom side it's got a piece of latex. And based on your calling style, it'll be a thicker latex, a thinner latex. It'll be stretched differently. I happen to use a lot of air volume and pressure when I call, so I get a thicker latex that's stretched tighter. And then this is the bugle tube that I used, and they come in various sizes and shapes. I prefer Phelps Game Calls. I've used just about every call on the market, and I just, the consistency and the quality of Phelps Game Calls is unmatched in my opinion. So that's what I use. We've also got external reed game call or external reed cow calls. There's all kinds of calls that these manufacturers make to help folks in the woods.
So yeah, it's a massive industry then for this, with all of those different kinds of calls, and you have your own custom call. That's amazing.
Yeah, they just came out with these. They're gonna launch them on the 4th of July. They're called the All American Signature Series. So you'll find them at Cabela's, G4 Archery in North Plains. I'm excited. It's pretty cool.
That is really cool. Well, yeah, I mean, now that you're the 2024 professional division champion, you're the winner. What happens next for a world champion elk caller?
Well, there's been a lot of this going on. Outside of that, starting this next month, I'll be scouting for elk. September is going to be spent mainly in the woods, and then, I might take a couple of months off, and then I start thinking about the contest for next year, and I've got a big target on my back now.
Yeah, everybody's going to be gunning for you right now, for sure.
Right.
But I mean, you're the champion, and I guess one more question too. How does it feel bringing the championship home to Oregon?
Oh man, when I finally figured out that I had won, this has been such a long-term goal and dream of mine. It felt amazing. It's really hard to compete at that level, and to be able to bring home the trophy to Oregon, I was beside myself. I mean, second place was nice. The first year I entered the pro division, but first place and second place is a mile apart. It felt really good.
Yeah, and you got it. Well, I mean, I guess, yeah, just with that too, what other thing, how did they call your name, or how did they announce the champion, and what did it feel like when you knew you were the number one person?
Yeah. So in the finals, it's double elimination, and the very last round that I went up, where I went up against a guy by the name of Reuben Hunt. Uh, I guess when I finally figured it out, it wasn't until I walked off stage, but I hadn't lost. Everybody else had lost at least once, including Reuben. And when we completed that round, and they asked the judges if they needed to go again, they said no. Well, once I put two and two together, the fact that we didn't have to go up against each other again meant that he had lost for his second time. I hadn't lost yet, so I went through unbeaten through that entire round. So that's when I'd figured it out. And after that, they call. So there's five or six divisions. So there's Pee-wees, youth. There's a voice category where people don't use diaphragms at all, usually children or young kids or ladies, women, men's, and then a professional division. So they call each division up on stage individually, announce the winners. First through third will get a trophy and some other cool prizes, and the professional division comes last. But man, I'll tell you, to lift up the plaque and the trophy and the belt buckle, and they've got a big wrestling belt that you throw over your shoulder, and it's just all photo op after photo op, and it was it was amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love the fact that it's a belt too. On top of that, you get to haul around. Well, my last question here. Any advice? Do you have any advice for any would-be or potential competitive elk callers out there?
Yeah, a lot of guys don't practice enough. It just like everything. If you want to become proficient and really good at something, you need to practice. And I oftentimes say, you can find all kinds of guys like myself on YouTube that will run through and show you how and explain how to use diaphragms, but and the sounds we make are close to what a real elk makes. But when you're talking about a guy like myself that's a couple 100 pounds as opposed to a bull elk that's 700 or 800 pounds, our diaphragms are way different. Okay, a bull elk is going to be much louder. They're going to sound different. Going to have a real deep guttural sound. Listen to elk and try to match or mimic what they're sounding like, and get as close as you can to that. And that's what the judges are looking for. You've got the judges are outfitters and guides and professionals in the industry, and they've got a pretty good ear and to be able to point out or pick out who's really got the routine down and the sounds down. So it's practice, practice, practice.
There we go. Well, Tony, thank you very much for joining me today. I appreciate it, taking some time out to talk about this, and congrats again on being the champion.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
You bet. Thanks, Tony. And for everybody watching too, this is Fox 12 Now. If you've never seen the show before, we live stream here every weekday in the afternoons for Fox 12 Oregon. We cover a wide range of topics on here, including talking about the Oregon champ, world champ, coming back to Oregon for the Elk Calling Championship. So you can check out all of our segments and topics at kptv.com. So I recommend you to go in there, or the Fox 12 Oregon app. That's a great way to see everything that we cover on here as well. But we'll sign off right now. I'll talk to you soon. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.